case. So thank you very much again for joining me today. We're going to look through 6 instantly actionable tips for digital lead generation. So basically the idea behind this is these are things that you could take away and work on right now if you wanted to. There are things that you could sort of make notes of and work on at a later stage. They are things that you could potentially work on at any point in is that we're a little bit down at the BrightClick in terms of clients sort of pulling away a little bit and people having to readjust and kind of do things a bit differently. So we wanted to really use this opportunity to get on board our own marketing, to kind of get behind it and to work on our own things. So here are the sort of things that we're going to be doing, and these are the things that I'm hoping that you guys can benefit from today as well. So the first aspect of this is your website. So let's move on here. So the first thing I'd like you guys to consider is, what's the main objective of your website? What is your website actually for? The reason, it sounds obvious, but the reason that I say this is many people don't actually make this consideration. Many people think that they have to just tick a box and that's all they kind of need for their website. They've got a website, they own a business, and that's all they kind of need to do. Well, actually, there's a bit more to it than that. You need to think about who's coming to your website and why why it's important that people are coming to your website and what they're going to do when they get there. The main mistake that we make with our websites is we talk about the what's rather than the whys. So a good example of that, for example, is that we could say as a what that we make websites, so the BrightClick, that look great on a smartphone. But actually the why would be, as 65% of all Google searches now start on a smartphone, we make sure that all of our websites are optimized for mobile. So there's a big difference there, isn't there, between the what, we make websites that look great on a smartphone, and the why. So I would really consider thinking about why people are coming to your site, why people would use your services, why you do what you do. Rather than just the what, i.e. the services that you provide. Think about more why people are coming to you and why they should use your services. The other thing you want to consider about is, who is your ideal customer? What would they search for to find you? So you want to think about, your website. What are people actually searching for in order to find your site? And what do you want them to find your site for in terms of searches? So I'd really recommend that based on, say, for example, the way that I like to think about this, I always use this example, is with estate agents. That estate agents, they often have a lettings department. They have a lettings side of things. But actually, the average user, the average person working in the kind of estate agent environment, the average person searching for an estate agent wouldn't necessarily use the term lettings. They would use the term property to rent, or rent my property, or how do I rent my property? How do I find property to rent? So the people searching for lettings are going to be far fewer than actual people searching for property to rent. Now, if your estate agent is all geared up around lettings and not geared up enough around property to rent, for example, then people aren't going to be finding your site for the things that they're searching for. So give that some real thought. Who is your ideal customer? What do they type in to find your business? And does your site represent the things that people are typing in? Does your website tell Google what it is that you do? Sounds obvious. I met a recruitment consultant in a networking event in Teddington about 2 years ago. And he asked me what I did, and I told him. And he said, "Oh, look, would you have a look at my website for me?" He said, "We are the only recruitment agency in Teddington, but our website doesn't rank for the search term recruitment agency in Teddington." Now, when I went and had a look at his site, incredibly, not once on the site did it say recruitment agency or Teddington. And that sounds really obvious, but I said to him, look, the thing is, Google can't just guess what it is that you do. Google has to know what it is that you do. And the only way Google can be guaranteed that is if you're telling it what it is you actually do. So make sure, it sounds so obvious, but so many websites don't contain this information. Make sure your site tells Google what it is that you do. A few other little things here. Does your site load quickly enough your website Google rates your site and ranks your site on a number of factors, but one of the real essential factors these days is how quickly the site loads. And a little quick test that you can do, if you go over to this site here, gtmetrics.com, that will give you a really quick indication when you put your URL in there as to whether your site loads quickly. We'd really recommend that you take a look at that and just test it out. Google provide a bunch of tools for this as well, but actually we don't always trust the Google tools. We like these independent ones that take a few more different things into account. Another factor here is, does your site look great on a smartphone? Now, we all know how much we use our smartphones these days for Google search. It's absolutely imperative that your site looks good on the smartphone. So have a little look at your site on your phone and see, does it adjust? Does it respond? Does it adapt? It's absolutely vital that it looks as great on a smartphone. You don't want people having to pinch, having to scroll too much, having to zoom in. It's got to be apparent right there when people are looking directly at the phone. All right, so I wanted to show you an example of something here in terms of what I mentioned earlier about making sure your site is optimized for the terms that people are typing in. So in this example, I'm using broadband deals. So you'll see there at the top there, that's what we've searched for on Google, broadband deals. Underneath that, you'll see that the sites that rank number 1, number 2 on Google for these search for this search term, and number 3, and number 4, they all say broadband deals in the title. And now that's again what I was mentioning is very obvious. If you want to rank for broadband deals, then you really need to make sure that your site is talking about broadband deals. I'm going to click on the top one here, one of the money saving expert here. If we go across to this site, and we will see here broadband unbundled deals there, right as the page title. Right underneath it in another line, broadband deals. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to kind of labor the point too much, but basically you really do need to make sure that your site reflects what it is that people are searching for in order to find it. Okay, I want to talk about directories a little bit now. By directories, ultimately at the moment, for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to be talking about Google My Business and Bing Places. Now, we've all seen these when we've done searches for local business in particular. You will see that here you've got the review section, which is what obviously a lot of people these days are taking more notice of than ever. And it's really easy for you to be able to claim your listing for Google My Business and Bing Places. Now, you've probably heard of Google My Business, probably haven't heard of Bing Places so much. There's a really good reason to use Bing Places, and that is that Bing ultimately comes bundled in with any new laptop. Most of people in the older generations will default to Internet Explorer or Edge as their browser, and therefore they will default to Bing for their searches. And the older generation tend to have more disposable income, tend to be better purchasers. So it's definitely worth being on Bing and not just to be taking Google My Business as the ultimate place to be. So if we go now across to how to claim your listing, it's really, really simple. First of all you need to do to claim your Google My Business listing, if you haven't already, is go to google.co.uk/mybusiness. Google/business, and there bingplaces.com. Go to either of those places and you'll be able to easily claim your listing. If you already have a listing, it's worth going in. Is it as optimized as it should be? It's really worth looking at. I would proactively ask for reviews. I'm going to come on to that in a little while as well. And it's also a good idea to be able to respond quickly to negative reviews. You'll get the odd negative review, and it happens. It's the important thing from a customer service perspective to be able to jump quickly onto that and to turn it around into something positive. On both Google My Business and Bing Places, it's very important that you optimize your listing with opening hours, photos, and the appropriate category, and try and use your keywords, which we've mentioned earlier in the webinar, in the title and description where you can. One of these things with Google Places Google My Business and Bing Places, I really wanted to mention on this webinar today, is it's the kind of thing that you set up once and then you forget about. You forget you ever did it, you forget the password you used, maybe someone else in your business did it, and you can't access that, and you can't remember how to do it, and it's got out-of-date information, an out-of-date telephone number, an out-of-date email address. An out-of-date, oops, sorry, I'm just inviting someone else as I'm talking, an out-of-date email address, an out-of-date website, whatever. This is a great opportunity for you to go through and scrutinize your directory listings right now and think about how you can get those optimized ready for the upturn, which will hopefully happen in the next kind of weeks and months. All right, here's a good one, referral campaign. I want you to ask yourself right now, what percentage of your new business comes from referrals? Now, I know that as a fact at the BrightClick, we get around 95% of all of our business through referrals, and most businesses are the same. And that's because you do a great job for your clients. Your clients are happy to talk to their clients and their customers about the job you're doing. People are always really chuffed to recommend the service that they've had particularly good use out of. And people like to refer, they like to recommend. It's in our nature to do it. Now, I'd ask you a question, and I think I might know the answer to this. When was the last time you asked for a referral? We're really guilty of this. We very, very rarely ask for referrals. We have this wealth of clients available to us that we're doing brilliant services for, and that are really getting a whole load of satisfaction from the service that we're providing. But when do we ask for a referral? Now, I want to demonstrate to you the power of referrals in this next slide. So back in 2011, just after we started the business, we started working with an estate agent who I knew from my days of working at Brentford Football Club. And we did a really good job for them early on. And they recommended us to their IT company. In fact, we had to deal with their IT company to make some changes to their website at the time. Their IT company introduced us to a change management partnership. I think one or two of you guys might even be on this call at the moment. Hello, if you are. They in turn, then the estate agent referred us to another estate agent over actually in Ashford, I think. So there was no direct conflict of interest between those two estate agents. And so they were happy to refer us to someone that they'd been speaking with at a conference. The same estate agent then referred us to another estate agent. This one was in Staines, so again, no conflict of interest. And that estate agent referred us to a house builder. And in the meantime, the other estate agent, who were working tirelessly for us now, introduced us to a high-end drinks brand. And that actually had a huge effect on our sort of turnover and the other business that we did in 2015, because they in turn referred us to a digital agency, who in turn referred us to an international financial services client, who we ended up doing some search engine optimization work for. Meanwhile, back down here, the other estate agent referred us to another estate agent, and then referred us to another estate agent. So we started to gain some real expertise in the property industry just through these initial connections. The high-end drinks brand, meanwhile, referred us to another digital agency who we're working with, and who's now a partner of ours and gives us a huge amount of referrals that we're achieving a huge amount of success with at the same time. That digital agency, for example, referred us to a household name soft drinks client last year. They referred us to a fitness product client last year as well. They referred us to a fitness industry client. Meanwhile, our friends at the Change Management Partnership referred us to a castle and a national sporting events client last year. We ended up building a website for an actual castle, which is amazing. But hopefully you can see just from that one referral back in 2011, the world that this has kind of opened up for us. So we're now not shy of asking for referrals. We're not shy of asking if anyone can recommend us. And you guys today, if any of you guys can recommend someone that might want to work with us, then we'd be absolutely thrilled to speak with them. Remember, people love to refer. You shouldn't be afraid to ask. There's no harm in asking. What's the worst that can happen? What I would recommend is, if you do ask for referrals, that you personalize your email. So don't just send a mass email out. Don't use MailChimp or something like that. It's a really good idea to send a personal email, make a personal request, or to even pick up the phone. I'd say, that's going to be the most powerful thing you can do. Pick up the phone, have a chat, and see who's interested in referring you. And leverage your friends. It doesn't have to be your business contacts. It can be your mates, your friends. We all know someone who knows someone who owns a business or works in business or has a small business. You'd be amazed if you just have a chat with your friends, how quickly they'll be keen to introduce you to their friends and their colleagues, and give it a try. There's literally no harm in giving it a go. All right, moving swiftly on. LinkedIn, very, very underutilized. You know, most people think of LinkedIn as just as a recruitment program. And again, LinkedIn can be one of those things that you set up once, that you do once, and then you forget about, and you've just left your profile like it was the first day you ever set it up, or that you've just, you know, it's been ages since you've asked for a testimonial or a referral on LinkedIn. There are some great things you can utilize. I'm going to just cover a couple of those right now. First of all, it's a really good idea to optimize your profile, not saying what you do in terms of the actual business that you run, but actually what you do within your business that can help people that come to you. So I've changed my LinkedIn profile over the last 6 months or so. And yes, I do look very young in that photo. It was taken nearly 10 years ago, but hey, there's some things you don't need to change on LinkedIn, right? But the tagline here, I help businesses attract new customers and clients using cutting-edge digital marketing techniques. The idea is that if someone sees that, they know exactly how I can help them, or how I can help someone that they know. Why? Because your tagline shows up everywhere on LinkedIn. When you post in the news feed, your tagline's there. When you send someone a LinkedIn message, your tagline is there. When someone checks who has viewed my profile and sees you, your tagline is there. When you show up in recommended people to connect with, guess what? Your tagline is there. It's all over LinkedIn. It's your chance to hook your prospects' attention and show that you're relevant and interesting and get them to visit your profile. Let's talk quickly then about the 4 rules of a great LinkedIn profile, because again, this is the perfect opportunity for you guys to do some work on LinkedIn and to get your profile as optimized as possible. And if you've got employees working with you who have LinkedIn profiles, well, it's a good chance to speak to them about optimizing their LinkedIn profiles as well, because they'll have connections that could no doubt bring in some business at what is, as we know, a challenging time at the moment. So first of all, make your profile all about your prospect. Again, we're talking about the why. Why does a prospect want to work with you? Don't worry so much about the what it is you do, what it is you've done. Think about what it is your prospect wants, what it is your prospect will gain from working with you. Second one, ensure that your profile is clear and concise. No one wants to read, 1,000 words of the project you worked on back in 2012. We need to make sure that straight away when people hit your profile, that it's clear and concise and people understand exactly what it is they're finding when they're looking at your profile. Set yourself up as the solution to your prospect's problem. So make sure if you can identify what you think your prospect's problem might be, that you can provide the solution to that. It sounds really straightforward, but that's what service provision basically is, right? And number 4 is deliver value. Make sure that you're delivering as much value as possible to your potential prospect. Over deliver. You don't have to sell right from the off. You can just deliver value, provide some important information. Think about what it is where you can go over and above at the beginning. Marketing is storytelling these days. Think of a case study. Think of something that you've done in the past for a client and how that might relate to future prospects. Deliver that across your LinkedIn profile. Another element of LinkedIn that is wildly underutilized is the search facility. So here, for example, I've typed in dealer principal into the search bar. So a dealer principal for us at the Bright Click would be a useful contact. It would be a useful person for us to know. We do quite a lot of work in the automotive industry. So I've popped that in up there. And then underneath here, you'll see it says see all results for dealer principal. Now it's going to show me the results of these dealer principals, but importantly, it's going to show me people that I know who know dealer principals. So I click on here. Matthew Morgan is second in my network, so it means I don't know him directly. I'm not directly connected to him, but I know people who are. So underneath here, Jeff Alexander, John Prendergast, and one other shared connection are friends with Matthew Morgan. Now, Jeff Alexander, I met at a networking event about 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know him very well. John Prendergast, funny enough, I went to school with, haven't seen him for many, many years. And there's one other shared connection there. However, Chris Ferris, down at the bottom here, is a dealer principal at Evans Halshaw, and Carl Simmons is a shared connection. Now, Carl is someone I've known for about 6 years, and I've worked with for about 5 years. He is very senior at a car dealer group that we've done a lot of work with and know very closely. So Carl is the perfect person for me to go to and say, Carl, can you please make an introduction to me to Chris? Carl would speak very, very, very nicely, very kindly about the BrightClick. We've worked with him for many years. He's a great guy, and I'm sure he'd be very happy to introduce us to Chris. So think about ways that you can utilize LinkedIn for your business for that purpose. There will definitely be people that know people that can help you and can start building some relationships for you in the near future. The e-newsletter, the famous e-newsletter. I remember when I started this business, reading article after article how social media was taking over and how the e-newsletter and email was dead. Social media, of course, has taken over, but e-newsletters are still alive and well. They absolutely thrive. We're still using email day to day, that we always have, probably more so than ever. And e-newsletters are a great way to cut through and to connect with your clients. And so many businesses don't use it. I'd imagine quite a lot of people on this webinar right now have joined because they received the newsletter that we sent through on Monday. We were able to communicate our digital strategy in relation to COVID-19 the previous Monday. I've received newsletters from many of my suppliers and clients over the last week or so, informing me of their plans to deal with the existing situation. So staying in touch with your customers, they are your brand advocates. The power is in your list. They've already interacted with your business in some way. You don't need to sell to these people. You just need to keep them up to date, keep them up to speed, and they're happy to receive communication from you. They've already dealt with you, they know you, and they trust you. You've got a lot of power in this list if you utilize it properly. I guarantee you this, every single newsletter that we send from the BrightClick generates at least one new inquiry. We've got about 600 or 700 people now in our database that we've acquired over the years. We know when we send a communication out that it will prompt somebody to think, oh, actually, I've been meaning to contact these guys, or, oh yeah, I've been meaning to update the website, or I've been meaning to put this social media campaign out. And often these things are on the back burner. It's amazing how many times we send a newsletter out or a communication out and we get a response. A friend of mine, Massimo, he owns the restaurant Shambles in Teddington High Street. He tells me that basically every time he sends a email newsletter out, a mail shot out on a Friday afternoon, he sits by the phone and he'll have the restaurant fully booked by Friday, for Friday night, within a matter of moments, where people get the email and they'll turn around to their partner or their friend or say, hey, do you fancy going to Shambles tonight? He said he can guarantee that just sending that mail shot out will get the restaurant fully booked for the weekend. It really is powerful stuff, and it's massively underutilized. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? You know, most people say, well, I don't want to bug my database, I don't want to bug the clients, etc. The fact is, all that a client can do, or a customer can do, or a previous customer can do, is delete your email. The very worst thing that can happen is they can unsubscribe and not get your emails going forward. But look, if they want to read it, they'll read it, or if they want to delete it, they'll delete it. That's the worst thing that can happen. It really doesn't hurt, honestly, to fire a communication out. Don't send one every day. Don't send one selling all the time. But absolutely send out communication. Let your clients and customers know what you're up to. Let them know something good that you've done, or let them know that you've got an offer on at the moment. It doesn't have to be hard sell. Could just be a hello, how you doing? And this is what I've been doing in the last few months. The thing is as well, is MailChimp, which we use to send our communications out, is free and it's amazing. It does get slightly more expensive if you start adding loads of users to your database. But for most small businesses, you'll find that it doesn't cost you anything at all. It's very intuitive to use. It's industry standard. We would absolutely guarantee success if you started using it for your own business. We love it. Right, Google Ads. Very misunderstood. So basically, I'm going to go through this very quickly for you. Google Ads is Google's online advertising service. It's a product that enables you to promote your business, sell products or services, and ultimately send traffic to your site. This is often misunderstood. It's an auction, so you're bidding against other people for keywords for position on page 1 of Google. So the more competitive the keyword, the more you're paid each time the user clicks on your ad. Google claim it's simple to use. Trust me, it's not. It's littered with trapdoors, which today I'll try and prevent you from falling through should you want to use it. I'm going to show you quickly the definition here. So here on this example, I've typed in estate agent Sunbury-on-Thames. This is the search term. This is what we would define as the search term or the keyword. Here you'll see this is where the ads appear. This is where the Google AdWords appear. Underneath that, we talked about this earlier on, Google Local and Google My Business results appear here. The benefits of Google Ads: you can reach people searching for what you offer. So however well your website is optimized, there are no guarantees that it will show at the top of Google, whereas AdWords will guarantee that you can get there if you're prepared to spend the money to do it. You can control your budget. You can literally switch it on and off, literally in real time as you choose. It's very measurable and flexible too, and it's cost effective most of the time. It's also highly targeted, and it's sales driven because anybody who's searching for keywords are in buying mode. So if they're searching for property to rent, as I mentioned earlier, it's probably because they're looking to either rent a property or they've got a property that they want to rent. There are 4 main reasons that people fail with Google Ads. First of all is account structure. So if you are setting up ads for yourself, and we'd highly recommend that you give it a go, this is the account structure. Don't be too scared by this diagram. What you really want to do is to split your accounts structure down into separate campaigns and separate ad groups, where those ads and keywords relate specifically to ad groups within the account. So the worst idea would be to try and put everything just going in one funnel, all into one place. So take all of the keywords that relate to your business, go just to the homepage of your site. That would be a bad strategy, but that's what most people do when they set AdWords up. If you are an estate agent, for example, well, we'll come to this shortly, but you need to split these things up like this: campaigns, ad groups, and then your ads and keywords underneath. Here's how ad group structure works. You've got your search terms and keywords. So in an estate agent example, it would look like this. You'd have property valuation ad group. You'd have an estate agent's ad group. You'd have a property to rent ad group, and you'd have a sell my property ad group. And then within each of those ad groups, you'd then have your ads relating to each of those. So what you're saying, what we're basically trying to say is you want an ad all about property valuation to go to the property valuation ad and ad group. You want an ad all about estate agents, for example, estate agents in Teddington, to go to an ad specifically about that. You don't just want all of your ads and all of your keywords just going to your homepage, because the user will get lost and there'll be no real path or no real kind of train of thought from the user kind of going into that. So then your ad structure would be set up something like this, where you've got keywords such as value my house, house valuation, value my home, etc. You want all of these keywords going to an ad that looks a little bit like this. What's your property worth? It could be more than you think. Example. So value my house, house valuation, home valuation. You want the ad to be talking about valuation. That's really, really key. And then you want it to be going to a page that's all about property valuation. If you just did an ad like this one, for example, estate agents Teddington, established since 1980, well, you might get some traffic coming through there for valuation, value my house, etc. But you're going to get a better click-through rate and a better quality of customer, quality of client coming through to an ad that's talking specifically about valuation. I hope that makes sense, and I'll answer any questions that you've got at the end of the webinar. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of AdWords is match types. This is, again, where people go really wrong. You've got here different types of keywords. So broad match is the default setting for Google AdWords when you set it up at the beginning yourself. And this is where most people burn through their money and decides that AdWords doesn't work for them. I can say that from personal experience, because I tried AdWords many, many years ago, long before we were ever Google certified or we ever even entertained the idea of selling AdWords services. And we got stung for 500 quid literally in a matter of weeks, because we were trying to advertise our web design services. But if you look here where it says example keyword at the top, as a broad match, bike shop would show up for something like cycle store, but it would also show up for something like bike seats or even something like coffee shop potentially. So we found when we were putting our website design services up as a broad match keyword, it turned out that our website was being found for things like graphic design or web design jobs or free web design templates and all that kind of stuff. And it's just ridiculous, because people still click on the ad, even though it's got nothing to do with what you're offering, and you will burn through money. The best advice we can give when it comes down to AdWords is you use something called exact match or phrase match keywords. And that is where you choose an exact phrase that you want to rank for. So in our case, Web Design Teddington or Web Design Agency Teddington. If we put that as an exact match, our ad will only show if somebody searches for Web Design Teddington or Web Design Agency Teddington. If they search for any other variant, we won't show. So you can choose the exact things that you want to show for, or you can get a little bit closer with a phrase match. So if somebody searched for Web Design Agency in Teddington or Web Design Agencies Teddington, for example, they would show up as a close variant. But what we don't really want to do is show up in broad matches, where if somebody searched for graphic design jobs Teddington, that we show up, and therefore you've got you know, an ad showing that isn't relevant to what the person actually typed in the first place. Just to clarify what I was just saying, these top ones here, for example, you know, would be great for us: Web Design Local, Web Design Teddington, Web Design London. But the ones below here, Web Design Free, Web Design Jobs, Web Design Templates, we wouldn't want to show for. And I promise you, these are classic mistakes that people make every time they start AdWords up for themselves. These things at the bottom are called negative keywords. You can drop those in to make sure that you're never shown for those ads. That's a little more complex. And again, if you've got questions on that, I'll be happy to answer them either at the end of the webinar or on a separate call if it was something you were interested in chatting about. And I know I said there were only 4, but in fact, here's a 5th point: landing pages. It's really, really important that when you're doing any type of advertising at all, that the user gets through to a page specifically where they can take some quick action, and that there's a call to action on that page for the user to get in touch. So it's important to send the user on the full journey from the keyword to the landing page. Of all the complaints that we hear in the agency of AdWords didn't work for me, this is the primary reason. So if a user types in value my property and sees an advert that says property valuation, then you should send them to the page where they can get their property valued. It does sound obvious, but we see so many ads that will just link to the homepage, and the user has too much to do when they get there. So you've done the hard bit. This should be the easy bit. The reason I wanted to talk about AdWords at the end of this session here is primarily because it's the perfect place to get your site shown for the search terms that people are using to try and find your business. But it takes a while to get set up. It takes a while to get right. And we've got some time now in this downtime to work on these things and to try and get ourselves ready for when people start searching for these things again, how we can get your businesses to the top of the Google search for these things.